Hello, Amanda.
Hello, how are you, Anna?
Good, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing really good. Yeah, just watching the
No,
sunset behind the trees over here. It's very nice.
how sunset. So amazing. Yeah. So welcome everybody to this live session. We are going to have a talk with Amanda today, who's one of our featured profiles. And yeah, just like to get to know each other and talk about what's present and what you do and like our upcoming plans together. So yeah, if you don't know me, I'm Anna. I'm one of the founders of Conscious Connection together with Bella. And yeah, we want to work with interesting people in the Tantra and conscious sexuality relating field. And we want to co-create with these people. So Amanda is one of the people we want to work with. And we have some plans for a masterclass with her coming up in a few weeks. So we're going to talk about that. And yeah, I think it's really amazing that, yeah, I'm here in Amsterdam and you're in Thailand. And
Yeah.
yeah, I want to hear more about you. Like, who are you, Amanda? Can you give us a little introduction to yourself? Oh, that's an amazing dress coming in the background.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, that's my roommate. Yeah, she looks beautiful. I was also thinking that as well. Yeah,
nice.
who am I? Okay, so that's an interesting question,
Just
a
a
big
small
question. I'm gonna
question.
I'm gonna nail it down. Yeah, nail it down into a small couple sentences.
One sentence.
Yeah, so basically feminine embodiment is a big part of my work, conscious sexuality and relationship dynamics, which is really all about helping people understand how to connect to themselves first and foremost, and from that space understanding that the more deeply we are connected to ourselves, the more deeply we can connect to each other. This is both in a relationship, in a romantic or in a sexual space. And ultimately, I believe that it's this deep, deep, deep connection, this intimacy, this authenticity that we all desire most, and oftentimes are trying to find out how to create it, and oftentimes are winding up not really feeling the depth of intimacy and connection and relationships we desire. So this is a big part of what I do, a big part of what I study is creating spaces both online in the virtual world, especially now, and also in person, so people can start to explore these parts of themselves, their bodies, their connections, and their sexuality.
Oh, that's amazing. And it's really our mission as well, you know, that for people to create more, to be more connected to themselves and to their partner and to the world and each other. Like, yeah, we need that right now, especially I think in the world. But I'm also curious, like, how did you get into this? Or has this been like present in your whole life, or was it like something that changed that made you like zoom into this field, or what's your personal relationship to this field? You know?
Yeah, great question. So definitely was not a part of my everyday life. I have a co-teacher of mine. We teach a men's program. So I do both men's and women's work. And with this co-teacher, you know her, Sophie.
Yes.
She like was brought up in a tantra world, and she like her parents were tantra. She's Dutch, so you guys the Dutch are much more open to sexuality than the Americans for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, my mom gave me a book on sex when I was, I think, like 14 or something like that, and gave me a book on my period when I was 12. So it was definitely not something that was in my sphere. My mom had been married and divorced 3 times. Her sisters has also been divorced several other times, and also my father. So relationships was something that was strange to me. I didn't really understand. I really started following this work when I got into my spiritual path. So around 18, 17, I started getting into yoga and really starting to see myself, my connection to my body different. I had always been a very active kid, but this spiritual practice of yoga really helped me not only connect to my physical body, but also my energetic body and also my spiritual body as well. And it was in this deepening of this connection to myself and to something that what I felt was beyond myself that I started to get really curious about alternative forms, about alternative expressions. And after studying and teaching yoga and traveling around the world, I lived in India for about 3 years, and I would study with teachers there and teach in various different places. I started to
Mm.
realize that there's really big disconnection between one piece, whether I was studying Buddhism or whether I was studying yoga or Hinduism or any of these spiritual practices. And primarily, it was the connection to our sexuality.
Mm.
And when I started to get curious about how all of these practices were trying to have me escape and go beyond my body and go into samadhi. I was curious if I am pure consciousness, if that's truly the essence of all of this cosmic soup. At the end of the day, it's consciousness.
Mm.
Then wouldn't I have consciously chose to be here in this body? And if I consciously chose to be here in this body, why am I constantly trying to escape it or go beyond it? And so this is where I started to really dive deeper into Osho and Mantak Chia's work. And I started to study both this in India and different workshops and trainings and teachers and backgrounds from around the world. And ever since, it's been something that's fascinated me. I don't think there's a right or a wrong necessarily. I don't think this is the right way to do all of these things. I think that this is a way that feels very connected to all parts of me. My sexuality is no different than my spirituality. And this
Mm.
is what I feel like was really missing throughout my path so far in studying different types of experiences.
Wow, that's amazing. And so cool that you lived in India for 3 years. Yeah, I've been there a couple of times as well, but not so long. Wow, so cool. And yeah, I think it's interesting when when that clicks, sexuality and spirituality, when you connect, it was like, for me, it was like, wow, okay, why did I separate this before? But yeah, I think it starts with some kind of expanding spiritually in one way or another, and then you get into this field, and yeah, and then it just grows bigger. And it's interesting what you said with your body, consciously choose this to be in this body, right? Or how do you see
Yeah.
that? What's your
Yeah. So it's like a lot of these practices, these spiritual practices, are wanting you to, especially let's say yoga, because yoga was my path for many, many years. They're wanting to move beyond. I can move beyond and I can transport and I can get out of my body and I can move to the different dimensions. Let's say the fifth dimension. Everybody's very aware of that right now. So for me, it's like, yeah, but if I'm consciousness, I had to have consciously decided to want to be here, to want to be here in this human suit, to want to be here in this human form. And if you think about the nervous system and the way the nervous system works in general, it's like there is something so grounding to the nervous system about touch. When we can touch each other, when we can hold each other, when we can breathe together, this is where some of the most heart expanding experiences happen. And this is all really a big part of Tantra. It's presence, it's connection, it's being in this body, it's celebrating this body, it's celebrating the pleasure, it's celebrating the light, it's celebrating the dark, it's celebrating the expansions and the contractions. It's allowing all parts of you to be seen, to be felt, to be heard. And I feel like there's so much disconnection in our bodies, oftentimes. Specifically even with our food, how many people are having disconnection because they eat certain foods that, or drugs or alcohol that disconnect them. And what I feel most people want is actually true connection and intimacy, and our interpersonal relationships are the pieces of us that hold the most depth, and they're also the most vulnerable parts of us as well.
Yeah, amazing. Thanks. Wow, I agree totally. So, what do you? Let's talk about this masterclass that we're planning. So, do you want to share what the topic's going to be?
Yeah. So, one of the things that I feel that I see a lot, people wanting to magnetize their ideal partner or the conscious partner or the conscious relationship that will fully meet them. And I feel like there's a couple challenges with that oftentimes. The first one being that we have an old paradigm, old way of thinking about what it means to be in partnership. And it's oftentimes a very codependent type of relationship. So the man, typically in a heterosexual, combination, male, woman, the man has this story that he has to be a certain way in order to be lovable, a husband, whatever it is, to fit the mold. The female has a different role that she's supposed to, create in order to also fit that same mold. And what happens is we oftentimes don't prevent, we stay in this old narrative, which also is codependency. Let's just take the 50s, for example. Post World War II, oftentimes there was it's a very typical role. The woman stayed at home and was the head of the household, and the man was the one who went and brought in the money. And it was a very codependent relationship. Well, Now that we're changing that story and more women are being able to be in positions of, let's say, power or create their own a way of living and being and engaging in the world, there's no longer this old story of I have these parts and you have these parts. Let's see how we can fit together. And now we're moving more into, I believe, what I call interdependency, where it's like I have all of these parts and you have all of those parts. How can we expand together? How can we meet each other in a way that helps us, that's not dependent? If you weren't here, I'm not going to lose my sense of self, my sense of well-being, my sense of even being able to be and live and feel comfortable and grounded on this world, but rather what you're doing and what your vision is actually helps to enhance what I'm doing and what my vision is. And so we can come together and support each other financially, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, sexually, whatever it is, you name it. And so magnetizing, how to magnetize your ideal partner, in my opinion, it's not about the pickup lines. It's not about, being the most beautiful, type of woman and making sure you have your hair done, your nail done, or whatever it is. To me, it's about understanding that if we truly want to be met in anything in our life, whether it's with a partner or whether it's with a job or whether it's with a friend circle, it is all about vibration. So
Mm.
when I can learn to do my own inner work, which means see my shadows, see my triggers, see my wounds, see my trauma, allow myself to support my inner marriage, which is my inner man and my inner woman. And this is some of the stuff I'm going to be talking about in the workshop. And this is a big part about my work is our masculine and our feminine, our inner man and our inner woman. How do we bring these things together? And from this space, how do we heal the relationship between both the masculine and feminine parts of ourselves? How do we see and love and accept ourselves fully and wholly? This means our darkness, this means our desires, this means our shadows, this means our wounds. And from that space, doing that work alone, we enhance our vibrational frequency and therefore are attracting someone else who has done their inner work. They're no longer in their wounds, they're no longer in their pains, they're no longer, not that these things don't come up, because regardless, when you're on the relationship path, like your deepest fears and wounds from childhood and all kinds of shit comes up. However, you've done enough inner work to stop projecting it onto the world outside, whether it's your boss or your partner or your mother or whoever it is that you want to, blame, which is very common in our society. Instead, you fully own it all. And from that space, you will attract people who are ready to fully own themselves as well. And you have high vibrational relationships, which is a big part of what I'll be going into, how to attract those high vibrational relationships that it feels like everybody wants.
Wow. Yeah. Amazing. And I love this topic, and it's something that's quite close to me as well, personally. We had a meetup recently with the members from the Conscious Connection. And in sharing, we had a question like, okay, but what's your like struggle right now? What are you dealing with right now with intimacy and relationships? And I actually shared that I am looking for, this conscious partner. Like I want to attract more conscious men in my life, or tantric men, or like, and this is something that I've been starting to shift in myself lately. And it's I really believe in the vibrations, because it all comes down to that. If you start to vibrate that, if you start to ask for what you want and like know your worth and all that, you actually start to attract new people. And like it already started to happen to me. So yeah, I'm also curious to know more, of course, about your experience and your tips and all that. Because you cannot like go around and complain like, oh, guys are like this, the girls are like this, I want this. But like start with yourself. I mean, if you like radiate what you actually stand for and like your core in a way, like I believe that these people will come to you, right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I can, and I'll share more when we do the masterclass a little bit about my experience, but I can definitely say that, um, especially for, let's just speak about females, like the feminine polarity is it's a very magnetic. And this can be females or this can be males. Anybody who is working with their female energy, their feminine energy, it's the receptive polarity. It's also very magnetic, especially
Mm.
when someone is in their power and they're centered and they're grounded. And you can begin to attract. And male, the male, or let's say the masculine frequency, can be in any body, but oftentimes it can relate to gender. It doesn't always have to, because of course there are trans and there are, heterosexual or homosexual couples as well who can hold different polarities. However, when we are full and we are whole and we are connected to ourselves, whether you're embodying more the feminine polarity, which is magnetism, you can attract people towards you, or whether you're embodying more of the masculine polarity, which is this penetrative, people look at you and they're like, whoa, like this person has presence, you can feel them. This is
Mm,
what people can start to pick up on when you've started to really, as you mentioned, own your worth, which
mm,
often means that you have to go through loving the parts of yourself that society, your parents, other people, cultures told you was not okay to love. And my work in sexuality, we go a lot deeper into this. What are the dark parts of you? What are the fantasies? What are the places inside yourself that that you're afraid or that you're ashamed of? Desires that you have that you're afraid that if you tell someone, they're going to shame you or tell you that it's bad or wrong. Doesn't
mm,
mean that everybody can meet you in those desires, but it does give you the permission to love the parts of yourself that maybe you've been taught are bad, dirty, wrong, whatever the story is.
mm. Yeah, totally. And like dare to, I'm all about honesty and like dare to express desires. I think that's the only way to go. And I will like organically you will create, relationships that are good for you in that sense. But I do think a lot of people, yeah, they hold back or they don't dare to show their whole self or like really, really express what they want, I think. And this inner work, I think, yeah, we all have a lot to do with that. But there are different ways to go. And yeah, yeah, interesting. And so what else? I mean, did I want to ask you about? So the masculine and the feminine. Uh, when I like, if you're not in the tantra world, maybe you can just like briefly say a little bit what you mean by that, like the masculine energy and the feminine. I know it's like a huge topic, but just like briefly explain,
Yeah.
uh, because it hasn't
Yeah.
to do with like being a woman or being a man, right?
Yeah. So everybody has, and this is another piece that I feel like is we're kind of moving out of this old story or this old thought around what it means to be a man and what it means to be a woman. Oftentimes, the old story is in order to be a man, you need to be strong, you need to be a rock, you need to, not be emotional, you need to be all of these things. And that really puts men into a box, just like we have women. Women, we have our own box that society has handed us and said, here's what it's like to be a woman. You need to be soft, you need to be sweet, you need to be kind, you need to be all these things. And what that does, unfortunately, is that prevents us from seeing and recognizing all parts of ourselves. So we all have a counter polarity, which is masculine and feminine, or yin and yang. And this is seen in nature. This is worked with, if you do qigong or you do acupuncture or acupressure, you work with Chinese medicine, Ayurveda. Oftentimes there is this hot and cold or yin and yang polarity. The yang, which is the masculine energy, is the focus, the determination, the penetrative, the structure, right? We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the structure. It is the clarity, it is the goal driven, it is often coming from this knowing, this mind, this logical piece. These are all masculine characteristics, right? So if we're thinking about masculine energy, instead of thinking masculine equals male, no, we dissect it even further and say, what are these yang characteristics or qualities, the fire, the heat, the drive? That's all very masculine. If we think about the feminine or the yin, more like water, it's fluid, it's creative, it's flexible, it's emotional, it's yes, yes, no, no, yes, no, yes, it's ever changing, it's much less and much more. And it's these polarities that dance. We all have masculine and feminine. Like we wouldn't be here if we didn't. And what I see is really beautiful when it comes to helping people expand beyond the boxes of I am woman, therefore these are the characteristics that I need to be in order to be X, or I am man, vice versa. That we get to see and love all parts of ourselves. So what part of me, and a lot of the work that I do with in my coaching and personal clients and my groups, is about helping us understand where do we lean more towards the masculine and where do we lean more towards the feminine in different aspects of our lives. So for instance, if you have your own business, or even if you're in business, in any kind of business, you're going to most often, unless you're a creative, right, you're going to want to pull on these masculine qualities of focus, direct, goal driven, penetrative, structure, in order to create the business such as you have here as Conscious Connection. It started potentially, most likely, from the creative, from the inspiration, from the idea, from the feeling. There was a feeling that was evoked inside of you and Bella that was like, the world needs this. The world would benefit so much if they had this. So it was like, boom, creativity, Shakti, energy, feminine came down. And then it was like, okay, so what do we actually need to build in order to bring this to life? And this is very much how babies are born. This is how we're all here. This is what attracts people. This is what makes them be like, hell yeah, you're juicy. Let's go. There's this attraction and this magnetization which happens. And so that's a little bit of a breakdown of masculine and feminine. And as you mentioned, it's a very, very big topic. And that's a little bit of a taste of. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's amazing. I think it was very well explained. Thank you. And yeah, it's also something I experienced personally. Like when I became more aware of this concept, I realized that, yeah, I was a lot in my masculine energy, and like now I'm trying to see where I can, like, find a space where I can be more in my feminine. And right now, being in the middle of a move, being on my own, there's so much to organize. There's like do, plan, structure. It's tiring sometimes to like have to be only, in one energy for too long.
100%.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Nice. Okay, so
just speaking into that real quick, just because I think this is a really like a key piece for a lot of women, let's just say, because you spoke into this. One of the things that I'll be speaking into in the masterclass is how we're taught that in order to be successful, you have to be like this, which is very masculine. Our story of success is very masculine. And so what I've seen is that a lot of women have shown up very much in their masculine in order to survive and to feel like they are enough, right? But unfortunately, what that does is it actually, because we're so strong and we're so independent and we don't need you, we can actually push away masculine, let's say, or men, or someone. You could be same sex, it doesn't matter, but you can actually push away. You're not in your receptive mode. So if we want someone to meet us, but we're the one, and it could be a subconscious belief of like, no, but like I do it really well on myself, I don't necessarily need you, blah, blah, blah. We're actually unconsciously pushing them away and not allowing them to support us in our relationship dynamic. So this is something that I work, and it's the same thing with, let's say, men as well. If a man is very much in his feminine, he is going, in order to create that magnetization and that sexy energy, he's going to need a woman who is very much in her masculine. But if a woman is in her masculine and she doesn't want to be in her masculine, she actually wants to be in her feminine, but she doesn't know how to surrender, which is something that I have gone through and continue to unravel more and more and more. It will be very hard for us to attract that type of person that we truly desire to meet us, because we haven't even met our own softness and our own feminine. And we don't know how to ask for help. We don't know how to say, hey, I actually don't want to do this all myself. Like, is there a way that I can get some support here? And that softness is inviting. And that's what really allows the masculine in any form, in any body, to come in and say, hey, I'd love to be that for you.
Totally agree. And I recently watched a video from, I think, Till Swan, but about this topic, and the problem nowadays with a lot of women who have this need to show that they're so independent. Like, and I am one of them. Like, I've always been a feminist. And I'm also Swedish. It's a very, very gender equal society. It's very important in relationships in Sweden that you are like you two individuals, and you contribute to the work, and like women can do as much as men can do, and things like that. And I think I had this mindset, and I had to prove all the time that I can do it myself. I'm a strong, independent woman. I've been living under a strong, independent woman for so long. And a few years ago, I had this man I was seeing who told me this. He was like, Anna, be a little bit careful, because in this way, like, you might not let people in, and it pissed me off. Like, it pissed me off so much. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, are you some conservative? You know, like, I want to be independent, and like, but now I get it. I get it. And this
Yeah.
whole thing with surrendering, this is something I'm also working on right now. I even created a playlist recently called Surrender. It's like very present in my life, and it's interesting when you like, yeah, you can find your small like events or spaces when you can try to do that, and also ask for help, for example, which I did now for my move. But you know, it's
Yay. It's the first step.
yeah, but I understand now why I might have attracted the wrong man, you know, because if I'm going to show up in this like strong independent woman, I can do everything, I don't need anyone, I don't need a man, I don't need help, I don't need caring, when all I want is caring and like someone to just like stroke my head, you know, it's like it doesn't work. So yeah, I love this. Really really interesting, and I think it can be life changing for a lot of people, you know, in their relating.
I agree. Yeah. And my biggest passion, whether in any of my work, it's just about giving people the tools to understand themselves better. So that
Mm.
when you can deepen that in connection to yourself and understand yourself better, so much opens up for you in the world of connections with others.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah.
amazing. So yeah, just before we end, do you want to tell us a little bit about your life there in Koh Phangan? Like, what do you do there, like, and how do you live? Like, I'm just a little bit curious because I went there 2 years ago. No, a year ago. I was there actually. I went to a healing center, yoga center, and then
Oh, nice.
yeah, Wonderland. It was great.
Okay, yeah. Yeah,
But
Wonderland's beautiful. Well, I can show you a little bit about real quick. I can just give you a little bit of a kind of so people can see and feel. This is kind of what I have. This is my
oh,
house.
it's your house. Wow.
Um, yeah, so this is my house, which is why, there's part of me that's like, yes, I have so many amazing friends and connections and tribe in the Netherlands. But
Mm.
then I look at this and I'm like, oh, it's so hard to leave,
Well,
in the warm weather and say that
yeah.
again.
Shall I show you the Netherlands?
Oh, I don't know if I'm ready to go. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Sky. Uh,
Different,
it's also,
different. Yeah.
but it's a kind of environment. Okay, so
Yeah.
you work a lot online with clients and groups, right?
Yeah, so I have a male for all my male client, most of my male clients. We have a group and it's called the initiation. So the initiation is about helping men understand the feminine more. So one of the biggest challenges in all of our relationships is that it's like if you're in a heterosexual relationship, oftentimes it's like we speak different languages. And we believe, or at least I can say I believe in what the initiation was really founded upon, is helping men understand the feminine more, both the feminine within themselves and how to communicate and to connect to the feminine in the external world, which gives these men tools for communication and how to connect to her more deeply in sex, and also how to embody different archetypes in your life, such as the warrior, the king, the magician. We go through aspects of that. So that's like one
Mm,
of the things that I do for our male bodied beings here. And
cool.
then the other thing that I do is for women. And this is more about helping women find their softness, about helping women really understand how to embody the feminine. Again, it's all around the feminine. So it's like, how do we embody the feminine? Male is like, how do I connect to the feminine? It's so strange. It's so foreign. They're taught like to push it away, And for women, it's also oftentimes if we're strong and we're independent and we're go getters, we're taught to push it away because it makes us weak. And, we want to be strong. We want to have all of our shit together, whatever it is. So for women, it's about how do we understand that we are actually the divine. We are the divine embodied in physical form. And there's so much shame around our bodies and around how we feel like we should look or how we feel like we should be. And so a big part of the work is like coming back to our bodies, coming back to our wombs, coming back to our yonis, understanding that they're sacred, that they're not dirty, that they're not bad, that they're not ugly, that they're not wrong, that there's nothing other than worshiping that gets to be done to this part of our body, because it not only bursts literal life into this world, but it's also the seat of our creative center. And so this is a lot of the work that I do for in my groups for women, and then I do one-on-one coaching. A lot of my clients are sensual based businesses. So women who are wanting to or are holding space for women in the same work as I'm doing. They come to me and they're wanting to get their online business up and going. And so that's a lot of about what I do.
Nice, amazing. And yeah, all of you can follow Amanda on Instagram, and also, do you have a Facebook page as well? Or?
I don't have a Facebook page because it was never, I mean, I have many of
Yeah.
them, but they don't really convert really well. But people can go to, if you're interested in the programs, either for men or for women, you can go to my website, which is instituteofintegratedintimacy.com. And the men's program is starting on the 28th. And right now we have early bird. So any men or any women who are like, yes, I want my man to understand me more. I want to be met more sexually. I want to be met more in our communication and interpersonal relationship, send them over there. And any man who is like wanting to either attract or deepen the relationship you have, check out our initiation, because that's definitely, it's very powerful. You know, we're it's the feminine serving the masculine. You know, we're here fully in honor and reverence of the male body beings. And I think for a lot of the feminists and the Me Too movement, there's been a lot of repression and repulsion from them to the masculine, and that really hits a place of me, because we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the masculine. And so that's a little bit of like, how can we come back together again and really find that union?
Nice, great. Yeah, and we can pop the website and the Instagram in the comments below, so you can find it there, of course. And
Awesome.
yeah, I'm very excited to have you as a featured profile, and I'm very excited for the things we're gonna create together and share with the world and our community foremost. Yeah. So
Me too. Yeah, definitely. Whoever's watching, be sure to get the information for the masterclass, because it's going to be really beautiful and
yeah,
powerful. So.
in a few weeks, so keep an eye out. We're gonna, yeah, you will know when it's up there. So we will share all the information with you. Yeah, so Amanda, have a lovely afternoon in Thailand in your
Thanks so
little
much.
garden. Oh, looks amazing.
It
Yeah,
is really nice. Yeah.
go to work now.
Okay, well, enjoy your work and enjoy your move. Hopefully, it's with ease and grace, and you have lots of help and support so that you can surrender a little bit more and soften even more.
I hope so too. Thank you.
All
Okay,
right, my love.
bye.